Today we are going to put my 3 brand new tools from Resiners to the test. Here is the resin curing machine G3 Dual Care AB resin and UV resin curer from Resiners. We have also gone and got this guy. The silicone rubber extender actually comes with 2 different textured sides. You've got the textured side and then you've got a smooth side. It doesn't actually matter at all which side is facing in or out. It is completely up to you. However, what you do need to remember is that it needs to have this smooth side on the base so that this one here with a little ledge can have the lid sit inside it. So essentially we just pop it around the base. So then our lid comes in just like this, and this part here will sit just in there like so. So this gives us, a good, 2 inches extra height. The resin mixer. Inside the box you get the base, you'll get the actual stick, that is the mixer itself. It also comes with 2 different sized paddles. So you've got a smaller one for your sort of regular size cups, and then you've got a larger one for the bigger, kind of deeper, possibly wider cups. Really nice smooth silicone. You can tell that nothing is going to stick to those. You have a USB charger there, a little tool with a little hook on one end and this little kind of wedge on the other. And this is the stand that I have ordered. Like this one, and it pops in like so. You select which one you need. I'm going to select the small one because that's the one we're going to be using today. You pop it in there, they kind of line up like so, and then that is ready to go. So when charging your resin mixer, once it's charged, this will actually tell you that it is full, and it is the same with the actual mixer itself. Here we have the Resiners air bubble remover machine. Out of the box, you get your power plug adapter for the correct country. I'm in Australia, so I've got this one. You get a stack of cups, and these are just some really wonderful measuring cups. You've got your mils, and then you've got your ounces on the other side, depending on what you prefer to measure with. And then you have the actual machine itself. So here is the base, and inside the base is where you put your mixed resin, and you have to be careful not to overfill it. And then you pop the lid on top like so. Your lid has your buttons ready to go, and it also has this little pressure valve. So when you are done with using the machine, before you take your resin out, you need to unplug this little hole and let the pressure come out. Let's kick off our road testing with the resin mixer. This one I'm super excited about because I get to have free hands whilst the mixing is done for me. I am just mixing up A to B resin here. It's a 2-to-1 deep pour kit from Boyle. It is super duper easy to use this machine as well. You have the base that goes up and down, which is super handy, and your actual stick mixer itself has 2 directions, both with varying speeds, making it really easy for you to mix all of those little streaky bits away and make sure that your resin is really, really well combined. All your mixing functions are preset to 90 seconds, but you can definitely pause and stop if you need to. I think I gave this particular batch like 3 or 4 goes over, just with those 90-second increments. I varied the direction and I varied the speed too, just to make sure everything was nice and combined. Not only does this little machine mix really, really well, it actually mixes with much fewer bubbles than hand mixing does. It is also super easy to clean up. Now onto the machine that I am most excited to use, the AirLess bubble remover. As with the mixer, it is super user-friendly. You press the AI button until you get the desired amount of time you would like your resin to be inside your air bubble remover machine for, and you just let it go, and it does its own little thing. There are 2 presets available. You have 5 minutes and 9 minutes. I normally go with a 5-minute cycle and then let it run again if I need to, and that usually does the trick. The machine works by creating a vacuum inside, and this makes the air bubbles within the resin expand and then rise up to the surface, and this is how we are able to dislodge them and make our resin nice and air bubble free. This is also why after you are finished, you need to remove the pressure plug from the back to neutralize the pressure within the machine so that you can actually remove the lid. After you hear that little hiss, you will know that it is time to push up on the lid and pop out your resin. And look how beautiful and clear and bubble-free that resin is. Here we are with some UV resin, getting it ready to use the UV function of the G3 curing machine. And it is such a user-friendly situation. So you literally press and hold a button, 30 seconds pops up. You got to make sure that you've selected the UV mode, because you'll see on the top there that there is flat, tall, and then UV. It already adds 30-second increments to start with. When you're in UV mode, you just need to add as many as you do. I like to start with 90 seconds for each side, and then do a couple of times with that 90 seconds if I need to. The UV function on the G3 is comparable to any good quality UV lights you might already be using. However, I am loving the amount of area I have to play with here. I can also use some of my taller molds, which is always great. Moving on now to our epoxy resin and testing out our AB curing function on the G3. The silicone mat inside the base allows you to pour your project on top of the base itself, which minimizes movement and minimizes mess. Once again, super user-friendly process. You hold down the power button, press it again until you get the correct mode. I'm selecting tall mode here, and whenever you are working in tall mode, you always need to add 1 hour to the 2-hour preset. It's been about an hour and 10 minutes because we had it in for 3 hours altogether. When I touch it, it is hot to the touch, and that is because if I press this button, I can show you that it is currently at 55 degrees centigrade. Now, the instructions don't actually explain to you what is going on in your machine. So this actually starts the cycle, every cycle, at 20 degrees centigrade, and then every half an hour it works its way up 5 degrees until we get to, I think 55 is the hottest it will go. Then it will climb back down from there and go through a cooling period before the piece is ready to be removed from the curer. The instructions in the booklet don't actually talk you through it like that, and so if you're impatient like I am, you might actually have checked that it started at 20 degrees and then checked in maybe 10 minutes later to see if the temperature had risen, and then it didn't, and then you might go ahead and try and increase the temperature manually, which you can do up to a hotter temperature, and then your piece actually flash cures. I've done that. So it would have been really helpful if in the instructions it explains exactly what is happening when you select the preset and it's automatic, and how it goes up in increments, and not to worry, don't try and increase the temperature, it will get there on its own. Curing has finished. This guy turned off all by himself after he had finished doing what he had to do. So let's remove the lid and have a look at our piece. Let's see how our little octopus is doing. Alright, now I can see on my finger I accidentally just got some on there. It is still not 100% dry. When I give it a little squeeze, it is still quite soft. I had some overpour, and I just poured this mold with that overpour, and so we can sort of see the difference between what's happened in the curing machine and what's happened outside of the curing machine, so we can see if there's any difference at all in the consistency of the actual resin. So if I'm looking at our little octopus guy, if I just gently touch our little skewer, you can see he is not fully cured, and we have this consistency, very tacky, very stringy when we pull it apart. And let's do something similar here. It's a lot less stringy because it is still a lot more wet, or a lot less cured. So as far as curing goes, this is a lot less cured than the little octopus that was in the actual curer. So back in we go, and I'm just going to do a 2-hour cycle here. Oops, there we go. I'm just going to leave it as a 2-hour cycle instead of doing another 3-hour cycle. And So after another 2-hour cycle, our piece is a lot more cured. It is still a little bit tacky, but it is no longer stringy as it was before. And when we compare that to the tray, who also had a 2-hour cycle, we've still got some stringy bits when we touch onto it, and it is a lot less cured than our octopus. Doing a little squeeze test definitely proves that that extra 2 hours helped cure the octopus a lot more. But just because we can, we are going to chuck this octopus back in for another 2 hours. The third run has just finished. So altogether we have had 1 3-hour and 2 2-hour runs. And let's see how we are faring. This has only had 2 hours, so 4 hours altogether. And it's looking fairly tacky, but not stringy. So like tacky in that it sticks. However, it is not wet enough that it is stringing out like the octopus did when we did this little section here. It feels a lot more solid to the touch, I've got to say. So it's a lot more, there's no more give, it's not sort of pushy and squishy, it's a lot more solid. The tentacles look like they could come out of the mold, so they're peeling away nicely, as opposed to the sides of this which are not peeling away at all. Like if I move the mold here, it brings the silicone, it brings the resin with it. This little drop of resin came from one of the paddles in the mixer. This did not go into the curer at all. So this is a pretty good yardstick for where we might be at had we not used the curer at all. This is still incredibly tacky. It is still incredibly malleable and really, really sticky. The resin that I left in here too, this was just the white resin. About, 18 hours or 19 hours or even 20 hours later, this is the consistency that our octopus was after 7 hours in the curer. So after around 7 hours in the curer and then an additional 7 hours air drying overnight, it is time to demold our octopus and inspect the quality of the piece that these 3 Resiners appliances helped us to create today. The first thing that becomes obvious is the absolute lack of air bubbles in this piece. In fact, the only air bubbles that were present were from the UV resin that was used, so it wasn't even in the epoxy resin that was in the AirLess bubble remover. It did such a good job at removing the air bubbles that there were no bubbles even in the tentacles that were really shallow, which is where air bubbles usually congregate. The next outstanding thing about using these tools was the reduction in curing time. We went from about 36 hours air dry time in ambient conditions to around about 7 hours in the curer plus 7 hours air dry time, and we were done. These tools were super user-friendly, convenient, and time-saving. But are they essential? The short answer is no. Ideally, you want to rely on good techniques to produce good quality products. However, we all know that sometimes resin has a mind of its own. So, if you're into things that make your life easier, I highly recommend these tools.